For the first 30 seconds of this video, imagine discovering that the colorful worlds of retro Mario games were never as innocent as they seemed. Imagine realizing that the blocks you smashed, the enemies you jumped on, and the endless castles you ran through were quietly teaching you strange rules about time. Repetition, loss, and obsession. Imagine uncovering secrets hidden in plain sight that you completely missed as a kid because you were too busy running to the right. Because today, we are diving into the funniest, weirdest, and most intriguing secrets of classic Mario games, from strange level designs and unsettling implications to hilarious oversights and hidden patterns that only make sense now that we are adults. And by the end of this video, you will never see Retro Mario the same way again. When we think about Retro Mario, our brains instantly fill with cheerful music, bright colors, and the comforting simplicity of jump, run, repeat. But once you slow down and actually think about what is happening on the screen, things start to get oddly strange in a way that is both funny and deeply intriguing. Because Mario is a character who never questions his world, never rests, never stops, and never asks why. He is running through the same landscapes again and again, as if trapped in an endless loop designed by an unseen force that only rewards forward movement and punishes curiosity. As kids, we saw Goombas as silly walking mushrooms and Koopas as slow turtles that politely waited to be kicked off cliffs. But as adults, it is impossible not to notice how bizarre it is that an entire ecosystem exists solely to be jumped on. Especially when you realize that most enemies do not even attack Mario directly, but simply walk back and forth like confused employees who forgot their job description, creating the hilarious implication that Mario is less a hero and more a hyperactive wrecking ball, smashing through a world that never really wanted him there in the first place. Then there are the blocks, those innocent floating question marks that trained an entire generation to punch the air without asking questions. Because what kind of universe places solid bricks in the sky filled with coins, mushrooms, or stars? And why does Mario never wonder who built them, why they exist, or why punching them is the correct solution? Making it strangely funny to realize that as kids, we accepted this logic instantly, while as adults, it feels like the Mushroom Kingdom is running on dream logic, held together by duct tape and cheerful sound effects. One of the strangest secrets hidden in retro Mario games is how they quietly teach you to ignore everything except progress. Because the screen scrolls relentlessly to the right and punishes you for stopping, turning back, or hesitating too long, subtly conditioning players to believe that survival depends on constant movement, which is funny in hindsight because many of us carried that exact mindset into adulthood. Always moving forward, rarely stopping, and never questioning who set the rules in the first place. Castles are another endlessly intriguing detail because Mario storms through them over and over again, only to discover that the princess is never there. A running joke that seemed harmless as kids, but now feels like a bizarre social experiment designed to test patience, persistence, and emotional resilience, especially when you realize that Mario never quits, never complains, and never considers that maybe, just maybe, he is being misled on purpose. The flagpole at the end of levels is another subtle masterpiece of unintentional comedy. Because no matter how dangerous the journey was, no matter how many lives were lost along the way, success is reduced to grabbing a pole and sliding down it, turning epic survival into a glorified playground activity, which is both hilarious and strangely symbolic of how retro games simplified achievement into a single, clear action without any reflection on the chaos left behind. Even the concept of extra lives becomes oddly unsettling when you think about it for more than a second, because Mario dies, constantly falls into pits, gets burned by lava, and is crushed by traps, yet instantly returns as if nothing happened, creating the strange implication that death in the Mushroom Kingdom is either meaningless or deeply normalized, something kids never questioned because the game taught us that failure was temporary and success was always just one more attempt away. Power-ups might be the funniest secret of all, because eating random mushrooms found in bricks makes Mario bigger, stronger, and more confident, which as adults, feels like the kind of life advice that should absolutely not be followed. Yet somehow taught us that growth comes from taking risks, even if those risks involve consuming unidentified objects found floating in mid. The worlds themselves are full of quiet absurdity because deserts sit next to oceans, icelands connect to fire castles, and logic bends to convenience. Rather than geography, creating a universe that exists purely to challenge the player rather than make sense, which is oddly comforting. Once you realize that Mario's world was never meant to be realistic, only playable, funny, and endlessly As kids, we also never questioned why Mario breaks everything in his path, smashing bricks, stealing coins, and defeating enemies without ever rebuilding or apologizing, which makes it hilarious to consider that the so-called villain might simply be responding to an unstoppable intruder who refuses to stop running through his territory, especially when Bowser's motivation starts to feel less evil and more like a desperate attempt to put an end to the chaos. Retro Mario also hides clever psychological tricks, because the game rarely explains anything, forcing players to learn through failure, repetition, and experimentation, which trained problem-solving skills without us even realizing it, making those simple pixelated levels far more influential than they ever appeared on the surface. The music deserves special mention, because its cheerful loops play endlessly without change, reinforcing the idea that Mario's journey has no true end. Which, as adults, feels strangely hypnotic and a little unsettling once you realize how perfectly it matches the game's endless cycle of run, fail, retry, succeed, repeat. What makes all of these secrets so fascinating is that none of them were hidden intentionally, yet together they form a strange, funny, and intriguing picture of a game world that shaped how millions of kids understood progress, persistence, and reward, all while disguising deep ideas under bright colors and catchy tunes. Looking back, Retro Mario feels less like a simple platformer and more like a playful simulation of effort itself, where the rules are simple, the goal is clear, and the only real failure is stopping, which might explain why these games still resonate so strongly today, long after the pixels have aged and the cartridges have faded. If this video made you laugh, think, or see classic Mario in a completely new way, make sure to subscribe to the channel, comment with the secret you never noticed as a kid, and share this video with anyone who grew up jumping on Goombas and smashing question blocks, because the Mushroom Kingdom still has plenty of secrets left to uncover.